Hello, my name is Sheila Lovell. I live in Wilmore, Kentucky, and I work at Asbury Theological Seminary. Back in March of 2020, when the pandemic really hit the state, and our governor said everybody had to go home, the seminary, of course, followed suit. And so I was packed off home with a laptop to do my work. And the kids, I have 6 grandchildren, all in public schools at the time. They too, of course, were sent home. And so a couple of days later, as I was sitting at my computer, I happened to think, what do those kids have to live for right now? They can't see their friends, they can't go to school, they can't visit with their teachers, they can't go out, they can't do anything. How are they going to want to get out of bed every morning? And so I thought, okay, I'll write them an email. Well, what's the email going to be about? Well, I have lots of stories to tell. I grew up in India as a missionary kid, lived there for 14 years. I've got lots of India stories. Then I came back to the States, met and married my husband, grew up on my kids grew up on a farm. I have lots of stories about the farm. We came back to Wilmore, lots of stories about Wilmore. I can write them stories. But as I was thinking this, I was looking at my cat, who was looking out the window at the birds, at the bird feeder, and I thought, to make it a little bit more interesting, I'll write it from the point of view of Checkers, my cat. And so that's what I did. So for 159 days, I wrote an 8.5 by 11 page of email to my grandchildren and sent it out to them every day. For 159 days. I only stopped when schools reopened in August of the year. And so I have written stories about my growing up in India, about stories of my kids growing up on the farm. Some stories were written by my mother first because she wrote about our adventures in India. They were in India for 20 years as missionaries, my parents. Others are other family stories that have come down in family lore. And my whole point was, I want my grandchildren to know who I was when I'm gone. Some of these stories they've heard, but others they have not. And so I wanted them to be more acquainted with them. So I told them in a very easy, breezy style. And my colleagues at work heard what I was doing. I sent a sample to one of them, and they said, "Oh, I want to see more." So I put them on my mailing list. And then others wanted in on the mailing list. And it grew even to where some of them went into the alumni newsletter from Asbury Seminary. Anyway, then when we all got back to work in September, they said, "You know what? You should put this into a book." And so I did. And so the result is called The Wind in My Whiskers by Checkers, my cat, as told to her mommy, that's me, Sheila Lovell. My cat loves to sit in the window and let the wind literally go through her whiskers, so I thought it would be fun to name it as that. I have 2 different families worth 6 grandchildren, and I know that some of them read them. Just to make sure that they did, I gave them each a copy of the book for Christmas that year. So whether they wanted to or not, they've each got a copy. It was very therapeutic for me to write, to think and write every day, 1 page every day. You'd think that wouldn't be hard, but it is. If any of you who are writers would know that. But I'm hoping that they got something out of it and that they learned a bit more about their grandma other than that she makes cookies. I would encourage anyone who sees this video to think about doing the same, especially if you're older. Write down your stories. And don't tell me you don't have stories. Everybody's got stories. Write down your stories, your family stories, and put them in some format. Or if you can't type, dictate them to a member of your family who can. And tell your stories, because your children and grandchildren and friends and others will be interested. Someday you'll be gone, and there won't be much left, and there will be nobody to tell your stories if you don't. So I really encourage you to do that, and that's part of what I was doing in this story, in this book too. But I was also, in The Wind in My Whiskers, telling stories of some miracles that happened. Some that happened in India, some that happened to me in America, miracles that happen to ordinary people because God loves us and wants the best for us. And so I'm hoping that if you get a chance to read this book, you will pay attention not only to the miracles that happened to me and my family, but miracles that happen to you. Life is a miracle. And I hope that you enjoy it.